From seed to shipment, from small business to big sale, this is Trade Routes. We're your hosts, Tiffany and Addie. Every month, we talk about how a product produced in the Western U.S. makes its way to global markets. If you listened to our last episode, you know we're leaning into the bounty of summer and talking about dried fruits. In the second half of the month, we dive deeper into a specific aspect of international trade. On today's episode, we're looking at how the USDA organic label travels across borders. Our examples today will be fruit-related, but these research-based episodes are meant to be relevant to anyone interested in international trade. We'll be sharing some certifiably useful knowledge on organic certification. All right, Addie, so I have cultivated and grown a very niche variety of apples from my coastal part of Northern California.
Okay.
I've gone through the process of getting micro orchard organic certified here in the U.S., and I've dried my apples to make the most delicious apple crisps around. I think this product is perfect for the EU market, so am I set to send it over?
Maybe. I think there's a few things to talk about before we just ship a box on over. One thing that's good is that the USDA organic standard is one of the earliest organic standards and is also one of the most recognized food labels in the world. But recognized by consumers doesn't mean automatically accepted by governments, especially, the EU's got all its regulations.
Sure, yep.
Some governments have equivalency agreements, whereas some expect you to meet their own standards, and some don't really have clear expectations. So as a small business, it's totally understandable to have questions about this. It can be frustrating to go through a very complex and expensive certification process at home, only to face similar challenges when you're trying to export your product. And what are we here for, Tiffany? To make exporting easier. Yay!
Yes, exactly. So throughout this episode, we're going to talk about kind of the basics of obtaining that USDA organic certification, what that looks like when you go abroad, so equivalency arrangements that might be prevalent for some markets, and what to do when there are not equivalency arrangements in place. And we'll dive deeper into everything that you need to know about getting your organic product to be certified organic in another market for export.
If we're going to start with the U.S., how do you get your organic certification here?
Yeah, so starting off here in the U.S., obtaining that USDA organic certification. If you're a consumer here in the U.S., you're probably already aware of that USDA organic label. But if you're a small business or a small producer, this may be the first time that you've thought about what it takes to actually acquire that certification. We aren't going to go into all the specific requirements because they do vary product to product. But they are established by the National Organic Program under the Agricultural Marketing Service, which is an arm of the USDA. Value-added products must be made of at least 95% organic ingredients to carry that organic seal. Certification is done by USDA-accredited third-party certifiers, not the government directly. There are about 80 certifiers active across the U.S. This certification covers operation, not just the product itself, so everything from farms and handlers to the processors, each certifies separately for this organic process. Why this matters for export is the certifier you use, the documentation they generate, and how your operation is registered all become relevant the moment you cross a border. Mm-hmm. All right, so you've met the requirements and gotten certified by that third party. Is it time to now ship our gourmet apple crisps to a Eurosummer?
Well, the good news is, with Europe, yes, the European Union and also Canada, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan have organic equivalency agreements with the United States. What this means is that when they have a bilateral equivalency agreement, organic products that comply with the terms of the arrangement can be sold in either country with just one organic certification. So this is great for someone from the US. If you've gone through the process here, you could send your raw product, granted that they meet the phytosanitary standards as well, over to the United Kingdom. You could send a processed product to Japan, and those countries can send their products back to the US and be organic certified here as well. So it's really a win-win situation for producers, companies from both sides. So there's no need to recertify to a foreign standard. But this isn't a green light for any and every product. There's some exceptions in each agreement. This is, again, something that you could find on the USDA website. But for example, Japan doesn't cover honey, seaweed, non-food processed products. Taiwan excludes aquatic animals. So this would include something like farmed seafood, which isn't very clearly regulated by the USDA organic standard anyway. But this does mean no organic sea monkeys.
Clever.
Darn. There's also a documentation layer. For EU products, labels must include the code that the EU has assigned to each USDA certifying agent. This isn't hard to do, but it can be another step that's easy to miss. Some practical notes when you're thinking about trading your products with a country that has an equivalency agreement. These countries are some of the top export partners for the WUSADA region. 47% of U.S. organic exports went to equivalency partner countries in 2024. So these are already some of your biggest markets that you would be looking at. That's a huge win, makes your life a lot easier. The equivalency agreement means that you're in a better position already, but you still need to know which equivalency agreement applies, what's excluded from it, and what documentation your certifier needs to generate for that specific market.
Yep, very good to know and very helpful that a product like my apple crisps are on track to be certified in the EU. Now, what do you do in markets without equivalency? For markets outside of these equivalency partners that Addie mentioned a few minutes ago, like Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America, there's really no shortcut. So you have two options here in these other markets, either dual certification or letting your buyer or distributor in market handle it. On that first option, dual certification, you can get certified to that destination country's organic standard separately from your standard here in the US. This means really understanding what that standard requires, finding an accredited certifier for it, who may or may not be US based, and maintaining those two separate certification processes for those products you're exporting. Costs and documentation obviously go up with this option pretty significantly, but many companies will go this route if the export market is big enough and important enough for their product. So really important here to weigh the benefits versus costs for your specific organic products in the markets that you're considering taking this route for. Now, that second option is letting your buyer or distributor in that export country handle it themselves. In many emerging markets, buyers import the product under their own certification or as a natural product and handle local labeling. This is common, but it does limit how you can market your product and gives you less control over that organic story in that specific market. So again, some pros and cons to weigh here for your specific situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think as a producer or a company, you would have to think about, like, is this a market that I really want to go into, and how much added benefit does that organic certification give me? In some cases, the cost-benefit analysis might work out. It might be worth getting certified. But in others, it might not be worth the additional hassle, the additional cost.
For sure.
All right, so now that we know a little bit more about the international organic landscape, let's get back to your gourmet apple crisps. The good news is if you're bringing them to the EU or Canada, the UK, Japan, South Korea, Switzerland, or Taiwan, those 7 countries, you're good. Your USDA certification largely works. But you do want to check the specific exclusions, maybe your micro apple varieties for some reason on that list. So make sure to check the exclusions in that arrangement and make sure your certifier is generating the right documentation. You know, they're going to do their best, but you definitely want to double check that you have all the things you need so you don't run into any unforeseen issues with your products. And so now, say that you have successfully exported your apple crisps to Europe for the summer. What do you do if you're ready to tackle Latin America? Do you know what steps you need to take, Tiffany?
Yes. So starting off with identifying the standard, that's going to be our first step. Most countries with formal organic programs publish their standards through their agriculture ministry. But if there isn't a national standard, the IFOAM, Organics International, is a great source of regional certification information. Next step, you're going to need to find an accredited certifier for that standard. Many large US-based certifiers actually are accredited for multiple standards internationally, so that's definitely worth checking out before you assume that you need to go engage a foreign certifier. Next step is understanding the documentation requirements. Some markets require re-inspection of your operation, even if you're already NOP or National Organic Program certified. The USDA's organic certification cost share program can actually cover expenses, including fees related to equivalency agreements and arrangement requirements. So that can be a really helpful tool to offset some of these costs.
Definitely.
And we'll be sure to link some of these resources, like the USDA Organic Certification Cost Share Program, in our show notes. So be sure to check that out too. Now, our last step is planning for labeling compliance separately. Certification and labeling are two distinct areas of compliance. Things like language, logo use, and disclosures may be different. So you're going to need to make sure you're checking the boxes for both here. The WUSADA region is already home to some of the top organic producing states in the country. So we might as well capture that advantage for export too.
For sure. And I can't wait to see your apple crisps in the grocery store. Number one fan already.
Woohoo!
Okay. Thanks for joining us on this journey from farm to far away. We'll see you next time for more on the ins and outs of trade. I'm Addie, and this is Tiffany, and you've been listening to Trade Routes, a podcast by the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association. Like what you've heard? Consider subscribing, leaving us a review to help others discover these stories, or reaching out at marketing@wusada.org. To learn more or explore export opportunities for your own business, visit us at wusada.org. That's WUSATA.org.